This segment of DelmarvaLife is brought to you by For All Seasons Behavioral Health and Rape Crisis Center.
Spring sports are here. Sports are healthy for children, teens, and adults. Exercise, endorphin release, being part of a team, learning life skills such as bouncing back from loss and failure. Now, depending on the sport, the expectations, and the level of play, sports can also create high-pressure situations that impact our mental health. Now, in the past few years, we have seen several successful athletes openly discuss mental health or step down from situations when they felt their mental health was at great risk. Well, Beth Dorman is the CEO and president of For All Seasons, and she joins us to talk about keeping sports positive and fun. Thanks for joining us, Beth.
Sure thing.
You know, I think probably the first question that comes to mind is, when do you know that we've reached our limits or our child has reached their limits in a sport?
So I think it's important that we don't reach the limit altogether. And so for some kids, it may be a different, they might be at 85 and they've hit their limit. And for other kids, it might be when they're at 100, they've hit their limit. And so you have to pay attention. We want to be determining what is best for our child and what is best for their well-being. It doesn't mean you don't push them. It doesn't mean that, when they say, I don't want to go to practice, maybe it's saying, do you not want to play the sport? Are you feeling like this isn't something that you want to do? If you're watching a child who's being really pushed by a particular coach, or maybe they're feeling pressure by their teammate, sometimes just having a conversation with your child and doing a check-in will help you determine where your child is at that moment.
And maybe you determine that, they have hit a wall or whatever. What's the next step?
So I think that talking with the child, encouraging them to talk with their coach. If the pressure is coming from the coach, then perhaps it's talking with the captains of the team. Maybe it's the athletic trainer. Maybe it's just you and your child talking together. But there's also the chance that the pressure might be coming from us as parents. I'm a mom of 4 boys, and so I absolutely realize that there may be a certain pressure that I put on my boys because I want them to do well, and we have that determination. So it's really about figuring out who the best person for that conversation is, and sometimes that requires us as parents to get out of our own way and let our child be able to have that conversation. It may be a teacher, it may be a pastor, and it may be somebody in the athletic department.
Okay, so let's talk about the coach and their role on the mental health of the players.
Right. So first and foremost, and I say this as a coach, and I say this as a former athlete and as a mom, a coach's job is to grow children. No one is getting into the MLB or getting into the NFL in 8th grade, when they're 8 years old. And so we have to make sure that we are keeping, first and foremost, why are the children on the field? Why are they participating in the sport? It's to talk about growing them as an athlete, to talk about growing them as an individual, learning life skills. And so we have to really pull back and say, developing children through sports is the objective. Yes, there are going to be kids who are going to excel, and we're going to push them, and they're going to go to special teams, and they're going to do travel teams. But at the end of the day, these are life skills that we're building, and they happen to be on an athletic field. And so as a coach, the job is to encourage, it's to set boundaries, it's to set accountability, but it's not to be toxic. And if there's toxicity that's happening within the team and kids are being motivated either through punishment or through areas where they feel like they don't have the option to say, here's what I need, then that's when there may need to be a conversation of what's best for the team.
Sure. Okay, so how can we stay healthy and strong and still participate in sports?
Sure. So, for the general child, it's sleep, it's understanding conditioning, it's understanding that sports can't be everything. We have to make sure that our children have balanced lives, because part of what happens, Lisa, is if everything becomes about one thing, whether it's dance, horseback riding, sports on the field, that child's identity is only in one area. And so what happens if there is an injury that a child can't play? They'll lose their identity. So we want to make sure that we're creating whole kids that stretch across many areas. And so also making sure that they understand the importance of the discipline of stretching and being ready for practice, so we're not injuring our children because we're rushing from one thing to the other. Like, I'm totally the mom who is flying through the drive-thru sometimes, but the importance of saying, get yourself mentally prepared for practice. Think about what's going to be happening, take some time to stretch, and make sure that at the end of the game, maybe that's not the right time to say, how was the game? Maybe you notice that your child finds everything that they do wrong at the end of the game. So figuring out, well, maybe it's the next morning that we talk through, and being able to help our kids understand coaching versus criticism and support so that it all comes together.
Very good advice. Thank you so much, Beth
Sure
Dorman,
thing.
CEO for All Seasons.